Our next speaker is going to be Steve Beyer. Steve Beyer has doctoral degrees in religious studies and in psychology and is taught at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, the University of California, Berkeley, and the Graduate Theological Union. He lived for a year and a half in a Tibetan monastery in the Himalayas and has undertaken and helped to lead numerous 4-day and 4-night solo vision fasts in the deserts of New Mexico. He also studied wilderness survival among the indigenous peoples of North and South America and studied sacred plant medicine with traditional herbalists in North America and curanderos in the upper Amazon, where he studied the healing plants with Doña Maria Tuesta Flores and received coronación by Banco Ayahuasquero Don Roberto Acho Jurama. Steve's current interests center on the indigenous ceremonial use of the sacred plants. He has served on the editorial board of the Journal of Shamanic Practice and currently serves on the advisory board of the International Center for Ethnobotanical Education, Research, and Service. He's an author, among other books, of Singing to the Plants, a guide to mestizo shamanism in the upper Amazon. So, without further ado, please put your hands together for Steve Beyer.
Thank you. Thank you. We have heard, and I am sure we will hear more about what the sacred plants can do for us, how the sacred plants can heal our wounds, cure our addictions, and expand our minds. We have been taught to think of the sacred plants as useful, prepackaged collocations of active molecules. But in indigenous cultures, shamans heal because they are in a personal and mutual relationship with the healing spirits. When we use the sacred plants, our encounters with the world of the spirits are not visits to the therapist. They create a relationship that entails obligations as well. In this view, the sacred plants are autonomous others who are not means to our ends, but rather ends in themselves. Like vision fasts, or dreams, or talking circles, using these plants is a sacred shamanic ceremony which has its often own unforeseen purposes and its own lessons to teach us. We are making it clear here what we expect from the sacred plants, but we need to ask also the shamanic question, which is, what do the sacred plants expect from us? At the start of every ayahuasca ceremony, my maestro ayahuasquero, Don Roberto, goes around the room putting agua de florida cologne in cross patterns on the forehead, chest, and back of each participant. As he does this, he blows smoke from the powerful tobacco called mapacho into the crown of the head and over the entire body of each participant, and he whistles a special song of protection called an arcana. The song has no particular name. It's just La Arcana, and no words. It is intention abstracted from human language. The wordless whistling of the protective song approximates instead to what he calls puro sonido, pure sound, which is the language of the plants. The goal is to cleanse and protect. The song calls in the protective genios, the spirits, the thorny palm trees, the fierce animals, the predatory hawks and owls that are used in sorcery and thus are the best protections against it. The strong, sweet smells of agua de florida chlorone and tobacco attract the protective and the healing spirits, seal the body against attack, and avert the pathogenic projectiles, the darts, scorpions, monkey teeth, and razor blades of the envious and resentful. The goal, as Don Roberto puts it, is to erect a wall 1,000 feet high and 1,000 feet below the earth to protect himself, his students, and everyone who is in attendance at the ceremony. But we need to ask the question, Why are there such precautions at a ceremony that is intended for healing? Part of the answer is rooted in what I have called the tragic cosmovision of the Upper Amazon, where its shamanism has no bright lines between healing and sorcery, life and death, good and evil, predation and renewal. In this tragic cosmovision, the dark and the light, killing and curing, predator and prey are at once antagonistic and complementary. The price we pay for life is death, and out of death comes healing and life. The same plant and animal spirits, the same tools are used both to protect and to destroy. The shaman who knows how to heal is exactly the same person as the sorcerer who knows how to kill. Once you drink ayahuasca, I was told, once you start to learn the plant teachers with your body, the world becomes a more dangerous place. Sorcerers, resentful of your presumption, will shoot magical, pathogenic darts into your body, or send fierce animals to attack you, or fill your body with scorpions and razor blades, especially while you are still a beginner before you gain your full powers. Peruvian poet Cesar Calvo Soriano says that drinking ayahuasca makes one into a crystal, exposed to all the spirits, to the evil ones and the true ones that inhabit the air. Such transparency is dangerous. But again, in the Upper Amazon, there is no bright line between the evil and the true spirits. Some of the most powerful of the plants, such as Pucalupuna or Katawa, want to deal only with the strongest and most self-controlled of humans, those who are willing to undertake long periods of fasting, the diet in the wilderness. Other humans they kill. Now, we do not ourselves need to be embedded in the ambiguous and perilous shamanic tradition of the Upper Amazon to recognize the power of these beliefs as metaphor. What the protective ceremony is saying is this: you cannot be a tourist among the spirits. Shamans in the Upper Amazon have established a relationship of trust and love with the healing and protective spirits of the plants. To win their love, to learn to sing to them in their own language, shamans must first show that they are strong and faithful, worthy of trust. To do this, they must go into the wilderness, away from other people, and follow the diet, la dieta, the restricted diet. No salt, no sugar, no sex, and ingest the sacred plant that is the body of the spirit. So the shaman learns the plant, its uses, its preparation, its songs, by taking the plant inside the body, letting the plant teach its mysteries, giving oneself over to the power of the plant. There is a complex interpersonal, reciprocal relationship between the shaman and the other than human person who is the plant that involves fear, awe, passion, surrender, friendship, and love. So opening the door to the magical world isn't a day trip. Every approach we make to the spirits entails reciprocal obligations, the risks and dangers of the vision fast. What those obligations are for each individual is between that individual and the spirits, but at the very least they require gratitude and humility, a willingness to be courageous and vulnerable, to speak honestly from our hearts and listen devoutly with our hearts, to tell the spirits our truest stories. Any encounter with the spirits is like a vision fast. Who here has gone on a vision fast? Wonderful. As you know, on a vision quest, we leave our ordinary life and comforts behind. We stay in solitude in the wilderness for 4 days and 4 nights, without a tent, without food, without fire. And in this way, we express not only our willingness to undergo hardship for the sake of the spirits, but also our separation from our normal social relationships. The voluntary privations we undertake are part of our newly liminal condition, our condition on the threshold between two worlds, in which we encounter the dangerous and unknown in order to bring back a gift, a song, a ceremony, our own unguessed talent, not for ourselves, but for our people. You cannot be a tourist on a vision fast. When I have helped to lead vision fasts in the desert, one of the things people do sometimes is when they are going to their place that they have already picked out, they go to their place, and on the path to that place, they will stop and draw a line around the path. And when they step over that line, at that moment, they are no longer in the ordinary world. When we cross over that line, we cross over into the land of myth and fairy tale, where we meet ogres and helpers, where every experience, ravens circling in the sky, a silver cloud across the moon, become meaningful and magical and full of mystery. The same is true with any encounter with the spirits. The encounter is risky and meaningful. We must be willing to undertake the dangerous opening of our hearts, to tell our stories to the spirits with open-hearted honesty, and to listen devoutly with our hearts to what the spirits tell us in return, often through the merest signs, the inchoate movements of our hearts, the silent singing of the plants. Any encounter with the spirits is like a talking circle. Who here has sat in a talking circle? We will be having a talking circle this evening. In a talking circle, people just sit in a circle and they pass around a talking stick. Whoever holds the talking stick gets to speak. Everyone else listens. There are no interruptions, no questions, no challenges. People speak one at a time, in turn, honestly from their hearts, and they listen devoutly with their hearts to each person who speaks. The effect is miraculous. In many ways, the talking circle is the paradigmatic healing ceremony. The talking circle makes demands on us that we have a listening heart, what St. Francis called a transformed and undefended heart. The talking circle demands that we put aside ego, speak our truth with humility, and open ourselves to the unspoken motions of the human heart. You cannot be a tourist in a talking circle. Speaking our truths with humility in circle touches on something that is deeply and fundamentally human. Communities become strong and relationships grow deeper on the basis of the songs and stories we sing and tell to each other, by our willingness to be transparent and vulnerable and accountable. We don't ask that the others in the circle help us or heal us or change us. We speak honestly from our hearts. We express our fears and hopes and regrets, and we listen to the songs and stories of the others. Sitting in circle with others is itself the healing. Any encounter with the spirits is like a dream. How many people here have had dreams? We are always strangers in the underworld of dreams. We are talked to in a language we do not understand. We are surprised at every turn by the exotic goods that are unloaded in the marketplace, the jokes we don't understand, the sudden kindness or treachery of our dream companions, and our own capacity for compassion and terror and rage. And perhaps like our own journeys, like our encounters with the spirits, like our vision fasts, like our talking circles, dreams have a purpose to make us richer and more human. To that end, dreams are willing, perhaps like our own journeys, to teach us things we do not always want to learn. You cannot be a tourist in your dreams. So our encounters with the spirits, our vision fasts, our talking circles, our dreams all make demands on us, and the demands are all the same. We can evade these demands. We can pretend they don't exist, but the obligations are real. We must be transparent and vulnerable and accountable. When we encounter the spirits, we must pass them the talking stick. We must speak honestly and listen devoutly for what they are saying to us in signs and whispers and silent motions of the heart, as if they were the mysterious songs of dreams and visions. Now, I think there's another lesson that we can learn from the shamanism of the Upper Amazon. When the soul of a shaman's patient has been stolen away, perhaps hidden in a cave in the Andes by an evil sorcerer, or stolen under the water by a mermaid or a dolphin, a shaman in the Upper Amazon does not travel to find it. Instead, the shaman sings a song that summons the evil sorcerer before him to demand the return of the stolen soul, or summons the soul itself to travel back home to the body of the patient that lies on the ground before the shaman. So when they heal their patients, shamans in the Upper Amazon sing songs that invite the healing spirits to the place where the ceremony is held, so that the spirits can direct the shaman's magical healing songs and show him the location of the pathogenic projectiles that have lodged in the body of the suffering patient. And again, we do not ourselves need to be embedded in the culture of the Upper Amazon to recognize what this teaches us. The spirits are all here with us right now. This world is as magical, as filled with ogres and allies, signs and mysteries as the miraculous world of the vision fast. What ayahuasca does, I was taught, is to render before us the unmistakable presence of the already present spirits. We don't need to travel to find the healing and protective spirits of plants and animals or to hear and sing their songs. We need only open our hearts to the miraculous present. And if the spirits are always present and are brought into focus and visibility by the power of ayahuasca, so are their voices and their songs. Shamans have told me that ayahuasca songs are like the radio. They are already, the songs are in the air. You just have to find the right frequency. Or it's like a tape recorder, another one told me. You just have to switch it on and you listen to the songs and you sing along with the spirits. My maestro ayahuasquero, Don Roberto, told me that he hears the spirits clearly speaking in his ear. They say, heal like this, use this plant, sing this song, use this medicine, just as if they were standing next to him. And he leaned over and he whispered in my ear, this is the sickness this patient has, use this medicine with startling clarity. Right now, if we could see it, this room is filled with beautiful tessellated tiles, filled with receding pathways to crystal palaces, opening out onto sparkling waters, crowded with spirits and visitors from other galaxies, and resonant with the singing of the plants. So our vision fast is taking place right now, at every moment of our lives. We don't have to draw a line in the path. We are right now in the land of myth and dream and fairy tale. We are right now in a world of magic and miracles. If we could only open our eyes and hearts and minds to the wonder that surrounds us. What ayahuasca teaches is that right now, at every moment, we already live in the magic forest. Suppose you dream that you are walking along a path And in this dream, you trip over a rock and fall down. And when you look up, there is a child holding a flower and smiling at you. We will then spend a lot of time and effort trying to figure out what this means. Sometimes we will pay money to other people to help us figure out what it means. And there are all kinds of techniques that you can use to find out what it means. You can go back into the dream and ask the rock, why did you trip me? You can ask the child to come before you and say, who are you? Will you be my teacher? What are you teaching me? There are all of these techniques that you can use when you hand the rock in your dream your talking stick. When you hand the child in your dream your talking stick. When you hand the flower your talking stick and say, will you be my teacher? And then you listen devoutly with your heart to what is said. Now suppose exactly the same thing happens, but in what we call real life. You're walking along, you trip over a rock, you fall down, you look up, there's a child holding a flower smiling at you. What do you say? You say, oh shit, I just tripped over that rock. And you get up and you walk away. We do not pay reality the same respect that we pay dreams for being meaningful, salient, and mythic in our own lives. We should give our waking experiences the same respect we give our dream experiences. We should hand them our talking stick and take them as our teachers. The rock we trip over is our teacher, and the teachings are rich and deep and full of meaning. So what the shamans of the Upper Amazon teach us is that we are always surrounded by the spirits and their music. We see them sometimes at the edges of our vision. We hear them sometimes at the edges of sound. Their music is puro sonido, pure sound, the language of the plants that is reflected in the whistling and whispering of the shaman and in the shaking of the shaman's shakapa, the leaf bundle rattle. We can learn to listen to their music in the humming of our blood, in the singing of the stars, and in the stories that we tell each other. The spirits make demands on us. The spirit plants make demands on us, and we cannot ignore those demands. It is no excuse to say that we were just tourists. It's no excuse to say that we were just visitors with no intention of staying overnight. We can't visit the spirits and come back home because the spirits are already here with us. And when we open our eyes to them, when we listen for even the faintest echoes of the songs they sing for us, we have undertaken an obligation to them. The plant spirits love us. Levi Strauss was once asked to define myth, and he said that a myth is a story from the time when human beings and animals spoke the same language. And I think the spirits miss us. I think the spirits want us once again to speak the same language as the plants and the animals and the stars and the rocks and thunder. I think they want us back. I don't know why. We haven't done anything much lately to deserve it. But they want back. And the spirits place demands on us. They love our stories. I think they love our music. Why else would their gift to us so often be a song for us to sing to them? Above all else, I think they want us to be grateful and humble human beings who walk in right relationship with each other, with the plants and animals, with stars and trees and thunder. Here is a way to recognize a demand that the spirits place on you. It does not gratify your ego. It is not the purpose of the spirits to make us feel important or superior. It is not the purpose of the spirits for us to walk around saying, I am a shaman, or I am a healer, or I walk with the spirits. The demand may be something we do not want to do, or something we must give up, or a task we think is beyond our powers. What the spirits want, I think, is that we all become better human beings. Sometimes the spirits hide our keys, put things in our way to trip over, make us emit embarrassing noises at a formal dinner. Why? So we can learn to laugh at ourselves and stop taking ourselves so damn seriously. The spirits are persons. They are other than human persons, but they're still persons. And like all persons, they are ends in themselves and not means to other ends. They are not simply useful, prepackaged collocations of molecules. They are not there for us to use, but rather for us to meet. They sit with us in a great talking circle. We pass the talking stick back and forth as we tell each other our stories, as we sing each other our songs, as we give our gifts to each other. In a true meeting with another person, a human, a spirit, a rock, we do not seek any end other than genuineness in our meeting. We can't go to the spirits and expect them to give us what we want. They may have other plans for us. In fact, rather than asking, or as some people do, demanding that they heal us or transform us or make us into someone else, we should just pour out our hearts to them in prayer, just as we pour out our hearts in a talking circle. We should not go to them with requests or demands or even expectations. We should tell them what we need, tell them what we fear, tell them what we regret. We shouldn't go to them with demands, but we should speak to them honestly from our hearts and then listen devoutly with our hearts to what they say to us. We must pass the talking stick to the spirits, to our companions, to the trees and plants, and be deeply alert to what they are saying to us. We must do this with everyone all the time because the spirits want us to be human beings in right relationship with all persons, both human and other than persons. If we must ask anyone for anything, a person, a tree, a spirit, we should ask them to be our teachers, to give us a gift, not for ourselves, but for our people. And let us recognize that the gifts of the plant spirits grow in plant time, not in human time. The spirits miss us. They want us to return to the time of myth when all creatures spoke the same language. It's up to us to figure out how to walk upright with the spirits through the miraculous valley of the soul. It's the quality of our meeting that matters, what we are willing to learn, and whether we are willing to be taught by what we encounter. Thank you. Couple of questions. Yeah, please.
Sure. I'm not entirely sure how to articulate this, but I think you'll understand what I'm getting at. I have trouble with vulnerability with any sort of experience, but mystical experiences too. How do you deal with that and spirits with ill intentions? Like, will that open you up to more harm, or will it help you to get through dealing with such a...
Let me give you a metaphor.
Okay.
All right. You have a dream, and you encounter a dream person with ill intentions who is chasing you. You run away and you open a door, and there he is again. You can't get away. You are filled with terror, and you wake up.
Okay.
One thing you can do, go back into the dream and talk to this frightening figure in your dream. Hand this frightening figure your talking stick and say, Why are you chasing me?
Okay.
What are you trying to teach me? Will you be my teacher? And then listen to what this terrifying figure says.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I heard you say in the
Still morning.
Psychedemia podcast and today that spirits love tobacco or like tobacco.
They do.
I understand better now how you know that, but I'm curious if you have any insight into why they like tobacco.
Why they love tobacco?
Yeah.
I don't have a clue. But I'll tell you what you can do. Why don't you ask them? They know more than I do. I'll tell you what. Next time you encounter a spirit, in a dream, in a vision, in an ayahuasca session, ask, say, be my teacher. Why do you love tobacco? And maybe they'll tell you, and maybe they'll teach you a song, and maybe they will give you a gift, or maybe they will give you a puzzle. But that's what I would suggest. And then when you find out, send me an email.
Thank you.
Yes.
Got to go down here. I like your talk, but I want to play devil's advocate. 'Cause
Please.
That's fun sometimes. So,
Remember that my ignorance is vast.
So in real life, you trip over a rock and you see a child with a flower and you ask if there's meaning. You try to find why this happened, what the meaning is.
Yes.
Well, so seeing special meaning in the way things are arranged around you, in receiving special messages from movies and the radio, having special powers that others don't. Sometimes
Receiving messages through the fillings in your teeth.
through the fillings in your teeth, exactly. Sometimes that's not good. And sometimes I think that can be very helpful, and that can lead to persisting personality changes over a 14-month interval and things like that. But sometimes that's probably not good. So what about that side of it?
Let me just lay that question alongside the metric that I proposed, which is it making you a better human being? If it is making you a better human being, then go with that. If you are on a good path, and you know what a good path is, right now as you stand there, you know the difference between a good path and a bad path. If it's putting you on a good path, then that's good. But if it's making you a worse human being, if it is making you frightened, if it is constricting you, if it is distracting you from the miraculous present, then that's something you need to deal with, and you need to try to straighten that out.
Mania, you feel fantastic and everything is wonderful, and you have special messages that you should impart upon everyone, and other people would say that you're being annoying and perhaps should stop talking so much. So I think that I have a great path and I should subdue others into realizing that I'm doing so great. I don't know if that's good enough.
I don't know either. I think we run into this problem all the time. You can take anything that people do that's good, and you can exaggerate it and make it bad. And mania, I think, does not make you a better human being. Maybe one sign when you are being manic that you are not a better human being is the very fact that you are not listening to your friends who are telling you that there's something going on wrong here. And the very fact that you find yourself unable to be in right relationship and open and vulnerable and accountable to other people when you're being manic is a good sign that it is not making you a better human being.
Thank you.
Stephen, I so appreciated your talk. It was so clearly not reductionist. So as a member of an academic grad program, obviously there is a particular kind of knowledge that is privileged over other kinds of knowledge, what we might call rationalism, yeah? And so I'm wondering if you get what is your response generally to criticisms of romanticism or other things that I could see your work? And I have to be clear, I don't mean this as an attack. I stand with you very solidly. I'm just curious if you get criticism in that particular way, and if so, how you respond to it.
I had a very interesting response to what you said, because I can't think of anything that I would call criticism. I have had lots of interesting discussions with people, and I have tried to express my thoughts, and they've told me what they think, and we've passed the stick back and forth, and hopefully we have each modified or clarified what we were doing, but as somebody who is completely non-academic and is not in that arena, I think that what I have said, as a matter of fact, I was very struck by what I was saying as being consistent with some of the things that you were saying, and I think, how can I put this? I think we all agree on certain really basic things. And I think that one of the first tasks we have is to find out what those things are that we agree with and work from there. And I think we are often surprised by how much we agree with each other. And we may be saying the same thing in different ways. We may be saying very different things. But that's okay, too. I don't think I've answered your question.
But you have in some way, because what I'm hearing you say is a conversational approach that is really geared towards refinement and clarity in use of language, and that forms the people who are having the conversation. So I think you did answer the question.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
I'm glad.
Recently, there was a death in the ayahuasca community of a young man of 18 years old, Kyle Nolan. And a lot of people are speculating as to why that happened, and I'm not going to talk more about it here. But my concern, actually, because I come from a community where I work with the medicine, is how can we properly prepare people for participating in this kind of experience? And is it possible to prevent a psychiatric episode or something that's going to cause the person more harm than good? And I'm just really curious if you have any perspective on that. Thank you.
If you go to the Singing to the Plants group page on Facebook, there has been an extensive discussion of that incident. How many people here have been following that? Okay. I think it's a very important incident. There have been several wonderful discussions on the Singing to the Plants Facebook page. There was, when I first posted about that incident, there were, last time I looked, 875 comments. And I expect we're going to hit 1,000 comments. Like all these discussions, it veers off in different directions, but it always comes back. First of all, nobody knows why that young man died. As you may know, his body is being returned to the United States. There was an autopsy performed at Puerto Maldonado, which is probably not a well-equipped facility for doing these kinds of studies. The Sonoma County Coroner's Office is going to be doing an autopsy, and we'll know a lot more then. But speculation has ranged over a lot of possibilities, including the aspiration of vomit, including some kind of adverse reaction to toa, which is any of several plants in the genus Brookmansia that is very rich in scopolamine. And some kind of a reaction to that, simply to a failure of supervision where the young man wandered off into the jungle and fell. And we'll know more after the autopsy. As to how to prevent it, I think that there are a couple of things that have been suggested. I just got an email this morning about somebody circulating a code of ethics for ayahuasca retreat centers. I am not a big fan of codes of ethics because I think it's very easy to put one up on your website and then ignore it. I think there are a couple of things. I think people need to be smarter consumers. I think they need to ask tough questions. If you go to my blog, I'm really pushing stuff here out today, aren't I? If you go to my blog, singingtotheplants.com/blog, I have a piece called How to Travel Safely to Drink Ayahuasca. So you might want to take a look at that. And I am also proposing an idea that we try to set up some kind of an independent certifying outfit that will in fact come up with a list of concrete certifying factors. For example, there should be somebody on site at all times who is at least certified as a wilderness first responder. The site should have written protocols for all foreseeable emergencies, including evacuation protocols. There should be criteria for the facilities carrying appropriate liability insurance, having a general comprehensive liability policy in place, and then have the retreat centers voluntarily sign on to see if they meet these certification requirements, and then just have a list on a website of those centers that have submitted written materials and have allowed an inspection of their facilities so that people can look at that and make informed decisions about where they want to go.
I'm an artist, not a researcher, so my question kind of comes out of that. I think when you're talking about subjects that to me are so holistic and so personal, there's so much talk about, psychobiosocial, setting, all these things. So, I mean, as researchers, how do you deal with that? I mean, where can you say, like, what is what? Was this the ayahuasca? Was this the Henario? Was this the whole experience? And I think the person who is being healed probably doesn't care. I mean, whatever works, right? This whole thing works. But I think in terms of presenting information to the public, I wouldn't even know how to begin to separate that stuff out. So I'm curious as to how you manage that.
I just want to put in a plug for my field. I think this is a discussion to which anthropology can make significant contributions, because we in effect are looking at these in situ. And we are able to watch natural experiments. And I think that what I would like to see in this field, and maybe as a result of conferences like this, as they increase, is greater interdisciplinarity between fields such as experimental psychology and anthropology.
I think I have a two-part question. And the first part is about the integration of these extraordinary states of consciousness and experiences into daily life. And meditation obviously has come up a couple of times, maybe more than that. And I especially like Stephen's remarks about everyday, regular reality deserving the same respect as these extraordinary states, which seems very much in line with meditation, being in the moment. But I'd be interested in further thoughts on integration, and especially regarding psychotherapy and the psychotherapeutic relationship and how that can work towards as another means of integration. This interest in the psychotherapeutic relationship leads me to the second part of the question, which is about the, I think, considerable tension between the paradigm that roughly we're all talking about today and sort of mainstream psychology and psychiatry and the views of the therapeutic relationship there. And I would just love to hear anybody's thoughts on either integration and that tension within the field of psychology.
I share your concern. In psychology, there is an ongoing discussion. In clinical psychology, there is an ongoing discussion about the medicalization of psychology and the ways in which psychotherapy ought to adhere to the medical model or to some other kind of model. And as a matter of fact, I have been thinking about an article on the medicalization of the sacred plants. And as I said at the very beginning, we have been taught to think of the sacred plants as useful prepackaged collocations of active molecules. And that is clearly a very useful and productive and generative way of looking at it, but I think there are other ways, and I tried a little bit to talk about that today. How we get this together, how we're able to look at this from two, I think, productive and generative ways of looking at the sacred plants, I don't know. And I think it's something that is certainly worth talking about. I don't think it has a simple, straightforward solution.